na kufikia mambo yote atakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
The quorum bell is currently on a ring mode at the Senate this morning, following the directives by the Speaker, Honorable Amason Jeffrey Kingi, that the Sergeant at Arms during the quorum bell for 10 minutes to give some sort of leeway for senators to make their way into the chamber this morning to necessitate the quoration of the House to about 15 senators, according to the standing orders of the House, for the House to commence business this morning, which is the hearing and determination of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Away from that, allow me to take you through some of the evidence and documents that have been tabled before the Senate for consideration. The National Assembly has forwarded the following documents to support their case. The documents include the impeachment motion and witness affidavits, the exhibits of the impeachment motion, the public participation report, the House proceedings, the Deputy President's response in regards to the motion to kick him out of office, and an affidavit by Peterson Njomo Mushira, among others, as the support for their case against the Deputy President. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is currently facing 11 charges listed in the motion for his impeachment, that by the end of today, the House will vote on each and every charge. And in regards to the laws of impeachment that guides the Senate, in the event that the senators vote to uphold either Moite, being the lead counsel for the defense team, they equally have Elisha Odhiambo, an advocate of the High Court, Mr. Tom Mashira, Advocate Ndegu Anjiru, Advocate John Jomo, Advocate Faith Waigwa, Advocate George Wandati, among others. They are totaling to about 14 advocates who are at the Senate to defend the Deputy President, who is the only witness in his case for impeachment. The defense has equally forwarded documents to the Senate in regards to how they intend to counter the accusations facing the second-in-command. The accusation among them are the documents that the defense is supposed to be relying on for the better part of today to defend the Deputy President, are the response to the particulars of the allegations in the motion by Honorable Mwengi Mutuse. This is a response to the charges leveled against the Deputy President in the impeachment motion. They equally have presented witness affidavits of Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, and further witnesses in further affidavits under Volume 4 of the documents by the Deputy President. The defense equally has video and electronic evidence that will be played for the better part of today as they seek to convince senators why they should be throwing out the case against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Kenya.
Kindly take your seats. Clerk, you may now call the first order.
Order number 1, communication from the chair.
Now, during yesterday's session, there's a volume that had been made available by the Council for the National Assembly. And I remember, Senior Counsel Mwite, you sought for time to look at it and confirm indeed that the photocopy did not introduce new material. Can we therefore now admit that document, Senior Counsel?
We looked at it, Mheshimiwa Speaker, and we have no objection now. It can be introduced. Thank you.
Very well. May the same be admitted and be made available to all honorable senators. Next order.
Order number 2, hearing and determination on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Now, honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen, at the rise of the House last night, the National Assembly, they had done the evidence in chief, cross-examined, re-examined, and it was then the opportunity for the honorable senators to seek for clarifications when the House adjourned. Now, the National Assembly has a balance of 20 minutes to conclude its case. You'll be noting the questions and the clarifications sought from the honorable senators. The Honorable Senator for Nandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just clarification, but since we had started yesterday with the word of the Lord, I want to leave to my brother Ekomas Mutuse through you. In Proverbs 12, verses 22, has been acquired for the last 2 years. Did you access the wealth declaration from EACC? Number 1. Number 2, under the NCIC Act and in Mudama's case that the courts ruled, is shareholding part of the definition of the word incitement? Number 3, in the matter of Kilifi Malindi Road, do you have any evidence to prove whether it is a private or a public?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My question goes to Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse, was Treetop Hotel, was it available for acquisition? And if that is so, was there any law of procurement that was breached? Second one, what is the age of these DP's sons? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question first goes to on attack on the national.
On whether their client is aware that county governments are distinct governments And if so, Honorable Speaker, did the DP consult with the county government of Nairobi over the challenges of relocation at Kayole? And two, Honorable Speaker, there was a video that was played, either one or two, involving a speech at either rally by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya. My question is, what was the essence of that video? And is it to show that two wrongs would make one right? Thank you.
Underestimated the net worth of those companies. Did you manage to estimate the net worth of those companies, and how did you do that? To the senior counsel, the counsel Tom Macharia, in the exploration of ground number 4, the particulars of the coalition document, and the coalition agreement. May you help us understand how we should interpret Article 91 of the Constitution and Article 232 of the Constitution?
To juxtapose what the president did and what the deputy president was accused of having done is with regards to one being in office and another one alleging that he's not been able to attend sessions where that complaint came from. Give us the correlation of the two. And secondly, I share the sentiments by all the senators who've sought to get from you an understanding about the coalition agreements. You attempted to explain yesterday the shares. You were asked about the place of this in terms of the regimes of the two kinds of agreements. What do you say as regards
to be either an illegality or a crime on their part by simply being listed as directors? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is to the counsel for the DP, Wakili Macharia. The clips of the then DP Ruto played by your team, could we read it to mean that it's an admission on your part that you're saying, if it was done then by a sitting deputy president, please allow the current one to commit the same at this point? And lastly, the 30%
to appear and in the content of his affidavit, was he invited?
Senator Kathuri Murungi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mine are just very strict clarifications. Number one goes to Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse, Deputy President, has inexplicably amassed a humongous, you know, these are very strong ones, property portfolio estimated at 5.2 billion. So my question is, this is within 2 years.
Was asked by the Honorable Enoch Wambua, Senator, and
okay.
It was responded to. So just ask for a different clarification.
Okay, and other than that, I wanted to ask whether Honorable Mutuse knows the difference between an impeachment motion and this motion. Is it a censure motion or is it an impeachment motion? And what are the thresholds for each of those two motions, if he understands the difference? Thank you.
Senator Chute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to the counsel for the DP. I would wish to seek clarity on the documents that they tabled yesterday, being the coalition agreement, which basically informed the basis as to which the DP has been talking about shares. I just want to know whether there is any document that secures shares in respect of the region where the DP comes from. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, if the council
from money coming from some place or money coming from some illicit, like you say, because I don't see that evidence on the table. And finally, I want to ask you again, Mr. Speaker, that if you look at the issue of the will of Mr. Gachagua, that is the former governor, did you by any chance get a way to ask either through the wife, the children, whether there was a meeting that took place where they were involved, or whether they were unhappy or happy with the transactions which were taking place? Because there isn't any evidence whatsoever.
Senator Mutinda Tabit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My two questions goes to you, Honorable Mutuse. First, in regards to this company by the name Crystal Kenya Limited, Ground 7, date of incorporation is 2009. And the CR12 that you have submitted to
Mutuse, sorry. Is it your opinion that the DP was talking about enforcing the Kenya Kwanza coalition agreement when he was speaking about the shareholding issue? And the second one goes to the DP side, that we were reminded here of the oath we took when we assumed this institution. Is it in your place to say that your client has breached his own oath even before we make a conclusion? Because we were made to read the third schedule here on justice, and directly and indirectly revealing such matters, and the oath of secrecy, that His Excellency the Deputy President, not the Mlima being touched. So in the essence of national unity, don't you think that your client, the DP, or you clarify for us that he has already breached his own oath even before we make a decision as the jury of this House? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My first question goes to Mutuse, and a comment.
You have exactly 10 minutes to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable senators, for this opportunity. I have, from the questions that have come across, there are many that relate to the companies, and several senators have asked why I listed 21 companies and why I said I did not have an interest in some of them. Number one, I think it is important for us to understand the context within which we are operating. I am not an investigator. Of record, you will realize that most of the companies that I've listed were also complained about by the County Assembly of Nyeri during the impeachment of Governor Rigathi Gachagua. And the complaint was specifically that there was a brother to the late governor, and the brother is one Rigathi Gachagua, who was doing all the business in Nyeri County. And from that basis, therefore, I needed to expound to find out what these companies that had been complained about during that impeachment, what these companies that had been complained about in the Esther Minor decision in terms of money laundering had to do with the Deputy President and the things that I'm alleging against him. And it is on that basis that I court by Justice Maina has been tabled before you. And today we are complaining that the same companies are helping to do corruption and money laundering. And that's the reason why we bring those companies. Please notice that in an impeachment, because I've been asked about threshold, and I know you know about it, my work here is not to prove criminal liability. It is not to prove beyond reasonable doubt. My work here is not to prove civil liability, but to show political responsibility. And I have been able to do that. In terms of Vipingo Ridge, the question I want to invite honorable senators, and I request that you listen to me. I was told yesterday that Vipingo Ridge, the two suspicious. It is obviously suspicious. Number two, in law, and I want to challenge anyone. As an estate, what is an estate? An estate is the totality of your belongings. So, can an estate own an estate? It is administrators. We would have expected that the executors in the estate who are named in the will are the ones who would have been named in the shareholding. And we know all these trick games that are being played around to hide ownership. And that, because I talked about circumstantial evidence, that is to be compared with the affidavit of Mr. Jomo in terms of how Jomo was approached to be proxy in buying the property, and how Jahenda, the question that has been asked, is the one operating their listed companies. I have listed suspicious transactions that lead me to the conclusion that he is now worth 5.2 billion shillings. The law on unexplained assets, because this is important. The law on unexplained assets is such that you are asked, you own this, please tell us how you acquired it. Because as far as we know, your legitimate income cannot support this. That is what I have done. I have listed properties that I have laid evidence that they are either directly or indirectly owned by the Deputy President. It is upon him, and this law is established, it is upon him to tell us where he got money to buy those properties, because in as far as we know, his legitimate sources of income do not support that income. Senator Kinyua, thank you for the question. Treetop Hotel is owned by KWS and therefore is a public to leading to its acquisition and leasing to that the Deputy President used his office to influence the acquiring of Treetops Hotel, abuse of office. Whether we have had the opportunity to discuss with the children and the widows of the late Rigathi Gachagua, please allow me not to comment on that, because there are requests also, as I said yesterday, that we keep certain matters that come to our knowledge during this process in secrecy. Senator for Samburu, the necessity of including the companies I have as a proxy for the Deputy President. What problem do we have? The President is talking about it, are crying about services. Is it a priority to renovate the office, or is it a priority to give water to the people of Kibwezi? Vipingo Beach, I have explained whether you would. The property, there is
them. May we have the second witness available?
Honorable Speaker, Gachagua. It is, I think, a shame that will stick on Honorable Mutuse for the rest of his years on earth.
Counsel for the Deputy President.
Yes.
There are very few clarifications that were directed towards you.
Yes.
So I'll give you 5 minutes. You're not responding to the clarifications by Mutuse. You're responding to the clarification as sought.
Those are the ones I am. And Honorable Speaker, there are quite a number of clarifications, especially on this estate issue, which please allow me 10 minutes.
All right. and respond to it.
That's what I'm responding to.
Exactly. So whose clarification are you?
Senator Dulo asked, can you please address the question of disinheriting the widows, if Hansard could confirm that? I believe she did. That's what I'm answering, yes. And so the will, as I'm explaining, does not disinherit the children or the widows or anybody else. It is merely because in the motion brought before you, there were properties listed in the motion that were part of the estate. That is the only reason this estate has become the subject of proceedings before the Senate and the National Assembly. So when you look at the will, as I've said, between pages 11 and 12, at page 13, if you have the document before you, this is volume number 4, there is a long list of how this estate was divided. And I won't go through it, you'll be able to read it yourself. That's number 1. Number 2, you will see an affidavit by the executors, except the Deputy President who did not sign this affidavit. These are the 2 remaining executors who have signed it, explaining between pages 4 and page 9 everything that was done in accordance with the law and in accordance with the law of succession, and that no one's property was taken away.
Senator Dulo, you know our rules. Proceed, Counsel. Proceed.
Yes. Now, I've been asked some questions about the issue of the Moranga video and about the shareholder agreements and whether 2 wrongs make a right. Our position is the opposite. Our position was that the benefit of every citizen and every part of Kenya. When the Deputy President takes a stand, we will be demonstrating to you with videos where both he and his boss, the President, went out of their way to say that the voting did not matter to how they were going to implement the development agenda. I think I was asked whether there are any contracts or agreements that were signed on behalf of Mount Kenya. I didn't know anything. Then an important question. The Deputy President did not say the government is a company. When you read the statements, he was making an example. It's like a company. It was a tool to explain a document. That's all he was doing. I'm pressed for time here. Yes, Senator Chariot asked a question about 2 wrongs making a right, and whether the current DP
is to create cooperative and interdependent governments. And just to bolster that argument, you will notice that the allegation against the Deputy President on Nairobi River relocation is not that he destabilized Nairobi County government, is that he refused to support implementation of a resolution of cabinet, a national government institution. Meaning even at that level, that was the understanding that this was an intergovernmental approach to.
Order, honorable senators. Senator Olekina, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question to Mr. Mulwa. Mr. Mulwa, if you look at the response in volume 6 by the Deputy President, the Deputy President says as follows, 4.2, volume 6, which is in page 11. In response to the allegations that you called him, or he called you, to be able to push, where Dr. Rigathi, it's alleged, he said, Dr. Ikunu Rigathi here, kindly contact me. When possible, there is a document for HE we are trying to collect. In the same affidavit, you have annexed 3 letters. 1 letter dated June 30th, and I want you to keep in mind of the 30th of May. June 30th, which is a letter sent to you, from KEMSA, a month after the date that the Deputy President alleges to surrender the bid board. Could you please give us a chronological of events? Because this letter is dated 11th that you sent to them. You allege that the Deputy President called you on 11th.
Honorable SC. Rule 23 of the Rules of Procedure. SC Okenyuri, he's gotten the question. He's gotten the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to add. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Speaker, my question is directed to to Mutuse and maybe his lawyers. Yes, I'm directing it to his lawyers, please. Questions from Justice Esther Maina. Has she ever made any complaint after?
Senator Bone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to Dr. Mulwa. Dr. Mulwa, I can attest that the number you have put here, through which His Excellency the President pressured you, he relates very well with me because in the days we used to talk with him, I used to use the same number. Your evidence is so critical that we would like you to walk us through that conversation between the Deputy President and yourself, during which time he was putting pressure on you. Mr. Speaker,
So I am so much aware of this investigation that went on. But Dr. Mulwa, apart from the financial loss that KEMSA incurred, did the alleged interference of the relationship, the alleged interference affect the relationship between the Global Fund and KEMSA? Because I remember, of course, the tender was terminated, which was about 3.7 billion. Global Fund terminated the tender. So was there any a relationship lost between the two? Number two, did the PS Josephine Mburu and CEO Terry Rama?
Two related questions to you. One, is the return of bidboards part of the procurement process? And if it is part of the that a call from the Deputy, His Excellency Deputy President on this issue amounts to interfering with the procurement process? Thank you.
Senator Mariam.
To Dr. Mulwa, that you said DP calls you. Is there, when he calls you, is there any interference with the procurement process? Thank you.
Witness, you may now proceed to make the clarifications as sought.
And honorable senators, I will try to answer the questions that have been put forth on the matter of the procurement of the long-lasting mosquito net. Had recommended to be awarded to one Shobika Impex Limited had an issue. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer to the bid bond, which I shared in the documents. Is page the ESCC, both houses of the, to the procurement anomalies. Mr. Speaker, June 12th or thereabout, asking for return of the bid bond. This company was Shobika, and we were able to, we did not have the document because ESCC and other investigating agencies had taken the original documents. And therefore, we wrote back and informed them officers were recording statements, and that is when I got a call from the Deputy President asking me to surrender the bid bond to Dr. Rigathi Gachagua. On the same day, because I called EACC, I informed them that, and for the record, Honorable Speaker, I had never received a call from anyone above my cabinet secretary. This was the first time I received a call from a sitting deputy president and requesting for documents that were under investigations. Mr. Speaker, in my 15 years of public service, I had never been asked to do that. And therefore, I felt coerced, and I had to leave the business that I had for the day. Kenyans lost 3 million or so net as a result. Secondly, there was a delay. We were supposed to implement the distribution of nets to the public from September 2023. That was not possible as a result of the delays. We were only able to start distribution of the nets from January this year. In effect, there was a loss in terms of money. There was a loss in terms of number of nets.
There's some clarifications that are sought from Council Macharia.
Speaker and honorable members, Honorable Boni Khalwale asked a question from the law. Indeed, there's a hierarchy of laws. It's the Constitution, the laws, and subsidiary legislation. And I cannot purport to be teaching lawmakers how this is done.
5 minutes.
Yes, and so I say this with tremendous respect. The hierarchy of laws, the infrastructure of laws, is that there are Article 91 and 232 were complied with. Thank you very much.
Counsel for the National Assembly. There is a clarification sought by Senator Kavindu. If you may proceed to clarify, then we close and move to the third witness.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The first question was whether there is any law preventing the Deputy President from intervening when they see any failures in the National Intelligence Service. The answer is that the oath of due execution of the office of the prohibits the Deputy President from disclosing matters, especially those relating to national security, that are committed to his secrecy. And therefore, it was a violation of his oath of office. It was a violation of the Constitution to discuss matters of that nature at a time in the circumstances prevailing in a press conference broadcast to the whole world. There is a constitutional forum to raise those issues. And indeed, the Deputy President, I want to believe very many other officers, even ordinary citizens, can write to that National Security Council if they have genuine grievances about its operations or its personnel or its capabilities and performance. Mr. Speaker, when that oath of office, which is part of our Constitution, says matters committed to the secrecy of the Deputy President are not to be divulged, it is an acknowledgement by our Constitution that there are certain matters which by their very nature, they are not of any complaint lodged by the Honorable Lady Justice Minor. But that question, Mr. Speaker, also tells you why this is an impeachable offense. Those who know our constitutional theory say judges hold neither sword nor the purse. The reason our Constitution protects judges and puts them in a special place is because unlike politicians and the executive, they have no way and no forum of dealing with harassment from the political branches of government. But if we are wrong in that, Mr. Speaker, again, why I'm very happy with this question, you imagine, let's accept for argument's sake that indeed Justice Maina could have lodged a complaint, because it's possible she would have walked to a police station, met an OCS there, recorded a complaint and a statement. Dr. Mulo has just been here as a judicial, summoning the Deputy President of the Republic to respond to a complaint. The whole specter of handcuffing, taking fingerprints, processing the Deputy President to take him to the magistrate's court to answer to a criminal offense would subject that office to so much indignity. And because the design of our Constitution is that
Mr. Speaker, may I just raise a concern? It is true that this witness was called pursuant to a summons of the Senate, but normally a witness is called to produce a particular document or to produce a particular item. As we stand now, none of us knows what this witness is coming to produce, so we can't even pull it out from these massive documents. We want it to go on record that this is trial by ambush. We will know for the first time what this witness has come here to do when he begins speaking. I just want that to go on record, but before he starts, I want counsel to tell us what documents this witness wants to rely on, so that against all the unfairness we have witnessed, at least we can have some semblance of looking at it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Counsel for the National Assembly, what say you?
Mr. Speaker, the documents to be identified by the witness are contained in Volume 8A of our bundle.
Calling the witness, please. Just have the witness on this side.
Okay.
Where the others took the oath. Now, just to remind Counsel for the National Assembly, you have 20 minutes to conclude on your case, and the Counsel for the Deputy President, you still have your 45 minutes in.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I intend to use 15 minutes to take the witness in chief and reserve 5 minutes for any re-exam. Introduce yourself to the Senate, the place you work, your rank, and how many years you've worked in that institution.
Thank you. My name is Abdi Mohamud. I'm the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. I have worked at the Commission since 2005. I started off as a senior investigator. Right now, I'm the Deputy Chief Executive Officer. My main responsibilities are to assist the Chief Executive Officer of the Commission in the day-to-day running of the Commission, among others. Another key role and responsibility that I hold at the Commission is that I chair the Commission Management Committee on Thank you. So there are three areas that I was requested to comment on. The first one is an investigation that the Commission conducted on a procurement on the supply of long-lasting insecticide nets at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, KEMSA. The second issue that I was to comment on is the declaration of gifts and donations document. Yes, I can identify. This is a letter that we did to the Clerk of the National Assembly on 23rd September 2024. It was responding to a letter that we received from the National Assembly requesting us to furnish the National Assembly with information on the investigation that we conducted on the long-lasting insecticide nets, and to indicate in our responses any outcome or status of the investigation that we did conduct.
So your letter in that volume relates to procurement of certain items at KEMSA. Am I correct?
You are correct.
You've appraised the Senate, the National Assembly in that letter. Would you appraise the Senate on its contents?
The content is the procurement of did take place, and from that we actually did carry out investigation, and the outcome of the investigation, so distribution rights on this particular chemical called PPO, and in totality, from the investigation, we realized that the PS at that particular time did write to the CEO of KEMSA, instigating or rather compelling the CEO so that it can fit the chemical that was to be provided by Shobika Impex Limited, whose local agent was Crystal Kenya Limited. Basically, that was the starting point. The other problem was not authorized by a manufacturer. This company had provided sufficient evidence and proof that they're actually manufacturers. So a company that is a manufacturer was disqualified on the ground that, so those are some of the challenges that the tender had.
And at the end of it all, what became of this tender?
At the end of what happened is, after the technical committee of the KEMSA did recommend Shobika to be awarded the tender, because this tender was actually was being financed by Global Fund. So the agreement was, after the tender evaluation committee's report is done, that report is to be handed over to Global Fund, the financiers. So when that report was surrendered or handed over to the Global Fund realized...
You said the evaluation committee of KEMSA
yes,
made a recommendation that Shobika be
awarded. That was the finding. That was the
finding of KEMSA.
That was the recommendation by the technical committee.
What happened next?
What happened is, and asked an internal firm, or rather an internal organization called Wombo.org, which is the procuring arm of Global Fund, to do the procurement. And eventually, one of the companies that were actually disqualified because they were not authorized by a manufacturer ended up winning that tender, together with another firm called A to Z Textile Mills Limited. So those were the eventual winners, but that was after the termination of the recommendation by the technical committee of KEMSA.
So just to clarify to the Senate, a company which had been disqualified by KEMSA ended up being the supplier.
That is correct.
Following the process which was undertaken by Global Bank.
That is correct.
Okay. What became of the bid bond?
Well, when we were investigating this, when the investigation was ongoing, we collected all the bid bonds of the firms that actually bidded, so that not only the bid bonds, but all the documents that related to the tender, so that we could evaluate and record statements. Now, the one that had issues was this one for Shobika. But when the tender was terminated, ordinarily, there would be no need to hold onto tenders or onto documents submitted by the tenderers, and they're usually returned. But for this particular one, because it was a questioned document, the CEO of KEMSA wrote to the ESCC requesting for that document to be handed over. And eventually we did hand over the document to him after recommending disciplinary action against all the officers who were involved in the tendering process, starting with the CEO, the technical committee members, the head of procurement entity. For this particular document, we have a certified copy, which we collected in case there would be need to reopen the investigation, because there could have been other offenses that could come out of the investigation.
Did you hand over the bid bonds for the other companies which had participated in this?
They were returned to KEMSA.
They were returned to KEMSA. Let's go to the second issue, which was identified in your invite, and probably we should start with the third one: state officers and public officers. You are a long-serving officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. I suppose you are familiar with conflict of interest in terms of the constitutional, statutory, and regulatory procedures. Would you appraise the Senate on that aspect?
Okay, thank you. So conflict of interest is actually addressed under Section 16 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, and it clearly states that a state officer or a public officer shall have interest. Basically, in practice, what happens is we also have the regulation, which is the subsidiary law of that particular act. If we look at of the Leadership and Integrity regulations, clearly specifies how conflict of interests are supposed to be dealt with by public officers.
And in summary, how are state officers to deal with questions of conflict?
All public institutions are actually required to maintain a conflict of interest registers, which can be inspected by, gifts. If you look at Section 14 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, together with Section 5 of the regulations of the same act, it is clearly indicated that gifts received by a public officer is a donation to the state. That is what Regulation 5, not non-monetary. For monetary, they are bad, or rather we are bad from receiving any monetary gift. But yeah, so this.
And in the same manner, with respect to conflict of interest, we have a register of conflict of interest. Do we have a register of gifts?
Yes, we have a register of benefits in each and every public agency, where officers who receive gifts are supposed to declare immediately, and we have indicated in 48 hours. And what I would also wish to mention is that
what is the role of the Commission in relation to gifts?
Okay. Yeah, now if
Counsel for the Deputy President, you may now proceed to cross-examine the witness.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'll be very brief with you. You did receive the summons this morning, yes?
I received the summons yesterday afternoon.
And you had come and testify in respect to what aspect in the motion of impeachment?
There were 3 items,
yeah.
which the investigation of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
What is the grievance in the notice of motion in respect to that tender? What is the mover of the motion aggrieved with?
Which page?
In respect to the tender you're testifying.
Which page?
In respect to this tender of KEMSA. It's a simple question. You don't need to refer.
But I need to refer to the document, isn't it? So that
you reckon that the mover is aggrieved by indicating that the Deputy President gifts must be dealt with? Do you know or you do not know, Mr. Witness?
I do not know.
You do not know.
Yes.
Now, in respect to this tender, are you aware that this Senate sat and conducted an independent investigation in that respect?
I'm not even aware.
Are you aware?
I'm only aware of the investigation EACC conducted.
Yeah. So in respect to this motion that is before the Assembly, what investigation did you conduct that relates to the gift in this Assembly?
I was requested to talk about...
We are talking about the notice of impeachment before the Assembly, Mr. Witness.
I'm referring to the summons that I was given by this House.
And your summons must relate to the proceedings, correct?
I'm not the originator of the summons. How would I know how it relates? I will confine myself to the summons. And there are 3 issues I was to address. One of them is gifts.
How many companies bidded in that particular process?
I think there were about 17.
There were about 17?
Yes.
Did all the bids pass?
Pass in terms of award?
Yes.
Finally, the award was given the names. Yeah, the 2 companies that eventually won after the Global Fund conducted their own tender.
Yes.
One is called Tianjin Yerkol International Trading Company
Mr. Witness, yes, of the tender.
It was direct favorism to Shobika.
It was direct favorism to Shobika.
And you know...
Please get hold of the volume 3 of the documents by the Deputy President.
Sorry?
You get hold of volume 3.
Counsel, you may assist me.
Volume 3 of our bundle of documents. And as soon as you get it, you go to page 221. Volume 3, page 221, Mr. Witness.
Just a minute.
And as soon as you grab it, you go to paragraph 100.
Which page?
Page 221.
221.
Paragraph 100. Volume 3.
221, just 1 minute.
Page 221.
Which
Look
paragraph?
At paragraph 100.
Paragraph 100, yes. I'm there.
Yes, paragraph 100.
I'm there.
Yes, can you read what the report?
The 3 Global Fund noted that KEMSA had failed to apply the evaluation criteria consistently to all.
And I've asked you to state for the Assembly the reasons why the termination is being recommended, correct?
Yes.
And I've told you that that answer, you'll find it at page 221, paragraph 100, correct? The minimal requirements, correct?
Correct.
And therefore, the cancellation was not as the result of your alleged favorism, correct?
That is not my evidence. My evidence is
yes, I know.
There was clear favorism.
Clear favorism.
Yeah.
Look at paragraph 226. Sorry, page 226.
226, I'm there.
Yes. Look at paragraph 136.
I'm there.
Yeah. Read paragraph 136.
In late April 2023, he learned from the Global Fund.
Who is this learning from Global Funds?
Oh, you just took me there straight.
Yeah, look at paragraph 225 so that we can get to know who is learning.
235 or 225?
Yeah, 225.
Gene and Coal International.
Which two companies passed?
As per this one, Tianjin Coal.
Yes.
International.
Yes.
Bidder number 7.
Yes.
Premier Movers Limited, contrary to evaluation committee.
Is Shobika part of those bidders?
No, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
Look at look at page 231 again, paragraph J.
231.
Page 231, paragraph J.
Paragraph J, yes.
Yes, read J.
The termination of the tender complied with section 62 of the Act and Global Fund guidelines.
So the termination was lawful, correct? And it complied.
Subsequently done in line with the technical specifications provided by the Ministry of Health.
So the nets were eventually procured, correct or not correct?
They were eventually procured.
And it took the interventions of global funds to procure them, correct?
Correct.
And that you look at paragraph 215, yes?
Yes, I'm there.
Read it out.
Further, prior to the cancellation of the tender, differences arose between Global Fund team and the immediate former PS, State Department of Public Health, and professional standards with regard to the operations.
It was noted that these differences may have played a role in the final decision by Global Funds to terminate the tender processes, correct?
Correct.
Did that have anything to do with the Deputy President? According to the President, was involved in that processes?
No.
Was his companies involved?
No.
Was his family involved?
No.
Any evidence that you have before this assembly to that respect?
The evidence I have.
No. Any evidence that any of them were involved?
On this report? Or my evidence?
This report.
On this report, no, but my evidence is.
Let us go to the next paragraph, yeah? This concluded that Global Funds teams based in Geneva, Switzerland, making multiple trips to Nairobi, Kenya, at least 3 times during the relevant period. Yes, the same paragraph.
Okay. The committee observed that cancellation of the tender appeared to have been influenced by Global Fund's apparent effort to exert significant control over the procurement process from the beginning to the end. This included Global Fund team based in Geneva, Switzerland, making multiple trips to Nairobi.
Who was the cabinet secretary for health at the time in issue?
Oh, we can check that one.
Yeah, who was? This regime has only had two cabinet secretaries.
Let me just confirm from my records here. Because she did a letter to us, so.
Council Jiro.
The name is
just hold on, witness.
This is Wafula.
Hold on, Mr. Abdi.
Yes, sir.
Council Jiro.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
I thought when you're cross-examining a witness, you cross-examine on the evidence they've given. You totally abandoned his evidence.
Those are not the rule of cross-examination, Mr. Speaker, sir. I respectfully beg to differ.
The reason why the witness has difficulties.
He doesn't have difficulties in the speaker.
No, he has. He has.
No, I am asking him to read. Okay, I will be guided.
Proceed, if that's your line of argument, proceed.
Thank you for giving the latitude.
Mr. Ken Ogola.
She received a note from the CS asking the CEO to assist one Ken Ogola, correct?
As per this statement, yes.
Have you seen any company associated with the Deputy President being accused of these interferences?
No.
Let's go to your bundle as I finish up, volume 8A. Any evidence from volume 8A that you've brought that links that links the Deputy President's company to the cancellation of the tender?
Yes.
Look at your paragraph, look at your letter dated 23rd September. Your letter dated 23rd September, and look at the recommendations.
Yes.
What are you recommending?
We are recommending for admin action against the KEMSA officials and the Ministry of Health officials. There is a pending issue.
It's okay. I want you to limit yourself to what I am asking in that respect.
Yes.
You are recommending administrative actions to KEMSA officials.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct. But the file is
in that particular paragraph, any recommendation for the prosecution of the company in issue? In that particular paragraph?
The file is still open.
It's okay.
As per these recommendations,
you brought the documents here. We are dealing with what you have brought, not what you have in the office.
Yes.
Any recommendation in respect of that company?
No.
Thank you. Let us go to a letter dated 21st August, correct?
Of my bundles?
Of your bundles.
By who?
The EACC bundles, the one that you're just looking at. Don't leave volume 8A. No charge as against the Deputy President for conflict of interest. Does that surprise you, that there is no such a charge?
It doesn't.
Thank you. No further questions.
Counsel for the National Assembly, you may re-examine the witness.
Now, Mr. Witness, only one more question. Between your statement that you have made and the Senate's report, which one do you want us to rely on? Which one? There are only two options. It's either your report or the report by the Senate. Don't give me an explanation.
I can stand by my report.
So we disregard the report by the Senate, correct?
I didn't tell you that. I didn't say that.
We disregard the report by the Senate. Is that the contempt that you have for this House?
I can only stand by my evidence, which I can prove in any forum.
Has that report by the Senate indicated any investigations on the ground of favorism, conflict of interest, and gifts?
No, I haven't gone through the report, so I wouldn't want to comment.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, but you're addressing me.
Are you done?
Yes, I am done.
Take your seat.
I'm most obliged.
Mr. Speaker, I believe I had around 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Go to counsel. Now, I'm afraid, counsel, your time is up. However, you have 2 hours to cross-examine the Deputy President. That's where you can borrow from.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to borrow 10 minutes in respect of this witness.
Laura, proceed.
Mr. Mahmoud, do you still have the bundle of volume 3?
Yes.
Do you still have volume 3 from the, it's a bigger volume than that.
Yeah?
It's a bigger volume. Oh. Are the various testimonies of the witnesses who appeared before the Senate. And those testimonies ran from page 202 all the way to page 265. Is that correct?
202, yes. That's correct.
So what council has done is to give you the various, what is important in pages 266 to 274.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And allow me to just highlight 3 of the observations which were taken out by the Senate. Look at page 267. Page 267, under the rubric.
Yes. Which
in
paragraph?
regards to the tender specifications.
Which paragraph?
Page 267, title B.
Title B, in regard to the tender specifications.
The Senate picked out the tender specifications as an issue, which emerged, correct?
Correct.
Go to page 268.
I'm there.
They also picked out the issue of extension of the tender.
Yes.
And in particular, read to the Senate paragraph 16(1). Paragraph 16(1).
The sequence of...
Hyphenated. And then they also pick out under D, the manner of the Senate rhymes with your observations in all material respects. Is that not so?
Correct.
At paragraph E, the Senate then discusses the process which led to cancellation. It's titled cancellation of the tender. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they say that though there was no loss of funds, KEMSA lost 70 million shillings.
Yes.
In procurement fees.
Yeah, paragraph 24. Yes.
So in all material respects, this report rhymes with the report of the ESCC.
That is correct.
And there is no reason for you to disown it. You've also been told that conflict of interest is not an issue which has been raised by the mover of the motion.
Correct.
To the best of your knowledge, does the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act, Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, have a clause on conflict of interest?
Yeah.
I will identify to the Senate during my submissions the relevant section which is contained in the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mahmood. And we wish to close with this witness, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. We will now move to allow honorable senators to ask questions to City County. Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, I've got two quick clarification questions, one from the witness and then one from the counsel who cross-examined the witness. Mr. Abdi, you have indicated to this Senate that eventually of all the 17 companies, get them from EACC at a variable date. Then lastly, Mr. Speaker, the counsel for the Deputy President has heavily relied on the Senate report. And if you look at page 218 all the way to page 230, it is submissions to Senate by different individuals. Counsel, do submissions itemized by individuals who appeared before Senate in your best understanding amount to Senate's finding and resolutions in your best understanding? And what do you make of page 275 of Senate recommendations and not findings? Because you did indicate.
Senator Jesang Alan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have two questions that I would like to ask the Counsel of His Excellency, the Deputy President, to tell the House why was it the Deputy President calling the CEO of KEMSA asking for a release of the bid bond and not the CEO of Crystal Company, yet he's not an employee or a director of the said company. Number two, Mr. Speaker,
You're trying to cross-examine the witness before us on a report of the Senate, which I believe he has not interacted with. And again, the motion that was before the House and also the National Assembly. What are you trying to drive out of that? I thank you.
Senator Joyce Korir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My question is, I wanted to know what informed the extension of time, the change of dates from the extension of time from during the procurement process. Thank you.
Senator Karungo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question to Mr. Abdi. You received a letter from the Health Ministry on 11th May 2023. Then in your wisdom, you replied 16 months later, when the CS has even left the office. My question comes with a report. Are you part of the conspiracy? Don't answer me, answer your children.
Senator Sigei.
Honorable Speaker, the question I intended to ask has already been asked by my colleague, Senator Mogatana, so I do not need to waste the time.
Senator Kibwana. And honorable senators, you know, when you're given an opportunity to seek clarification or ask a question, it is not a moment to get a TikTok clip. Please, this is a very serious matter. Proceed. Senator Kathuri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, mine is not to the council or to the witness, but to the remarks which has been given out here by Senator Karungo Dhangwa. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether you heard what he said, and I do not associate myself as a senator, honorable senator, with those remarks to a witness appearing before the Senate, that please don't answer me, answer your children. Mr. Speaker, that should be expunged from the records of the Senate and from the answer, Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable senators. Senator Karungo, that is unparliamentary and totally out of order. Proceed to retract that statement, failure to which the chair will rule.
Mr. Speaker, as I withdraw, this session is viewed by everybody. At home, our children too, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karungo, I never gave you an opportunity to make a speech. Retract or you allow me to make a ruling.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I retract.
Take your seat.
I withdraw, and please answer me.
Take your seat, Senator Karungo, please. Senator Keroche Tabitha.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. And as a mother, I think I've also felt I'm hurt. Because it has been ruled, thank you. We should never, ever. I know we had a meeting, closed our meeting before we started this. And we all agreed we are going to behave. Thank you.
Proceed to seek clarification.
Mine is to the Abdi. My question is to the Abdi on whatever you're trying to do on the procurement irregularities. But my question is, are you doing to the others, because there are a lot of complaints on the procurement department, you know?
Senator Richard Onyonka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to ask Mr. Abdi this question. In your observation, maybe in just a paragraph, what do you interpret happened about this tender, the exercise and the conclusion, as an officer whose responsibility is actually to investigate if there was any breakage of the law, and if necessary, make recommendations to the DPP. What conclusion did you reach when you were analyzing this matter? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dr. Mulwa, before this House, implicated the Deputy President in a scandal of the 3.7 billion KEMSA deal. In your own investigation, can you corroborate what Dr. Mulwa has claimed before this House? Thank you.
Senator Tom Ojenda.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question is different. I want to ask the previous, the advocate who spoke or presented the Mandera County, Marsabit County, Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, Lamu, and Nairobi County. I just want to know whether, and this is important because the legal crinkum crankum, the twists and turns in this is that you will then interpret, Council, whether the agreement violates Article 210(2)(b) of the Constitution, inclusivity, diversity, discrimination, and the obligation of the President under Article 131. Lastly, Council, please just tell us whether, in your view,
fund before the case on record. In your own investigations, you find that. In your letter, I see you have recommended administrative action against the CEO, the acting director of procurement, and 2 procurement officers. I see no recommendation of any action, not necessarily by KEMSA, against Crystal or against Shobika. And I think that's in line with your own recommendation that in this case on record, there was...
The witness is that we've been told by Dr. Mulwa that the people of Kenya lost money, they lost time, they lost the number of nets they were going to get, and services to people. Now, does EACC end at just saying you recommend administrative action? Now, who takes responsibility for the loss of all of that the people of Kenya did? And what responsibility is taken in respect of tinkering with the procurement in order to give it to the wrong person for it to be found not to have been correct? Honorable Speaker, one more question to Council. Now that Professor Ojenda has asked, I want to take opportunity to ask Council Macharia, you referred to the Political Parties Act, Schedule 3, as the instrument with which you allege that the shareholding, in your view, that was being spoken about is contained in the coalition government of Kenya Kwanza. Can you give us the exact provisions of Schedule 3 of the Political Parties Act that says that shareholding can be done on development projects in Kenya?
Senator Mugo. Senator Mugo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Excellency Deputy President's Counsel as to whether the Deputy President, in his own conscience, realized that this shareholding narrative is really going negative, and what did he do about it? Or he just went all...
Finally, why were the companies that were finally eventually given the tender or awarded the tender by a global fund, why had they initially been disqualified by KEMSA? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Lelegwe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would like to seek clarifications from the Advocate of the National Assembly in reference to Ground 11, which pertains to gross misconduct bullying. You have alleged that that His Excellency, the Deputy President, exerted undue pressure on officials of Kenya Medical Supplies Agency in order to secure a tender purportedly associated report,
as opposed to his own documents. Do you want it to go on record that you want to rely on that report as your evidence in chief, or should the Senate rely on your documents as tabled under volume 8A of your own documents? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Shakil Abdallah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to Mr. Abdi. How many more charges against the deputy before the EACC apart from the KEMSA? Thank you.
Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Mr. Speaker, just a quick question to Abdi of EACC. This issue of the bid bond, Mr. Speaker, listening to the former acting CEO or help us understand that there was something peculiar. You know, Mr. Speaker, when you hear about pagination, if you know anything about tenders, you know for a fact that if there's an issue on pagination, either it is not just an issue of forgetting to page added later on after the tendering process was concluded, or, Mr. Speaker, it was defective. What was the real issue according to their investigation with regards to the bid bond?
Dhamana ya Zambuni kama ulivyorudisha zingine 17. Hiyo ndio ningetaka kujua. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mogene.
Yes, Bwana Abdi. On this issue of irregular procurement of malaria nets with KEMSA, you know, you have given us documents that basically point to some recommendation for administrative action to be taken against a number of officers. But you know, what is of our concern today is companies associated with the DP. Can you tell us anything that you found irregular around the subject matter that concerns us this
especially some of us, when in our community, when we respect you, we give you cows. Does it qualify within the meaning of Section 14? Number two, I've seen administration action against KEMSA officials and ministry officials and KEMSA. Since you recommended administrative action, have you gotten feedback from KEMSA? And number two, did you recommend any action against companies? And finally,
the Council for the National Assembly, you have presented before this House two witnesses, Mr. Abdi and the previous one, Dr. Mulwa. Dr. Mulwa before this House stated that there was no loss in regards to this procurement process. Mr. Abdi's report indicates very clearly that there was no loss of public funds. Would you tell this House, between your two witnesses, now working in a different capacity, what action are you supposed to take, or do you intend to take? Do you do recommendations and not adhere to them? What's the conclusion as far as this kind of reports are concerned from your office? Mr. Speaker, I ask this because Kenyans sometimes say that the Senate does not do oversight. We do not really take action, but we recommend. And this is now the situation that we find ourselves in, that your recommendations that
to him. Did you investigate the contents of that phone call?
Witness may now proceed to respond. Proceed, witness, to respond. Proceed to respond, witness. Order, honorable senators. If you have noticed, Honorable Seki, Honorable Seki, Honorable Seki. I have not heard the apology. Honorable Seki, Chamber. Proceed. The floor is yours, Honorable Seki.
I apologize.
Take your seat. Now, Honorable Seki, Honorable Chute, and Honorable Omtata, you're totally out of order, pursuant to Standing Order 121, and I'm cautioning you. The first caution for the day. Honorable Chute, every senator here is elected to represent their people,
which is Shobika. So that led to the extension, and that was instigated by the permanent secretary, who did a letter, which is in our documents, directing the CEO of KEMSA to extend the date of closure of the tender from 23rd February to 10th March. Now, that is the issue which which made the bid bond, the date of extension to be extended, the date of closure to be extended, will either be in terms of course, each institution has its own mandate as far as the Constitution or the legislation or the statute that created it is concerned. Now, when it comes to criminal investigation, and specifically issues to do with 20,000 are declarable, and they have to be entered in the registers. And after the end of every financial year, the institution has to actually declare to the ESCC of the existence of that gift. Now, the issue of what was our finding or our conclusion when you look at the whole matter and our perception, or rather, what would be our conclusion that we reached. Now, when you look at this particular tender, first, it is an international tender that was floated as an open tender to international companies. Companies bidded, but there is a specific company that has a local agent here, which is Shobika, that did not conform to certain procurement requirements as per the tender document. Because when tenders are floated, that tender has got specific instructions or directions to the people who are bidding. If, for example, you are supposed to do it, So we do not have the powers to compel the chairperson we don't have the compellence powers as far as administrative action is concerned. So I want to leave that for the honorable members to decide what to do with that. So I move on. Then the issue of reading of the donor community and what our view is. You know, if you may allow me, Honorable Speaker and the members, the medical, or rather the health sector, has faced serious challenges of corruption throughout this period. Throughout the period that I remember working at the EACC, it is an area where a lot of donors are actually almost giving up in supporting our programs. And that has a serious repercussion. Because first, let's understand. We did not attend the National Assembly hearing, and now we are attending the Senate. We were not invited to the first hearing. Yesterday, I was served with a summons of this House, and we are simply responding to that summons. As to why we were not invited in the other one, that I don't know, and we only respond to the summons that were issued. So then, Senator Omugeni, the companies associated with the DP, we've not investigated any company that is associated. And the other one, of course, is intimidation by the CEO of KEMSA. I think I had addressed that one. Then finally is whether we want to prefer more charges or more sanctions against the persons involved, and on this matter, especially on criminal culpability. That the issue of criminal culpability is still open, and we will be inviting some people probably in the near future. But as of now, we dealt with the issues of administrative action against the individuals involved. Thank you.
Senator Mtata.
Honorable Speaker, was there any clarification for us to respond to some questions that have been put to us?
Just listen to this law so that you
Sugar is running a bit low. There are many questions.
It's running low to everybody.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Speaker, sir, to the witness from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, I would like to ask whether the Kenya Kwanza Coalition document
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me first of all thank Bwana Abdi for many years' service he has given to this country, and we highly respect him. I want to refer Abdi to ground number 11 and also to his documents, page 7. Ground number 11 says, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, bullying Nets to Crystal Limited. And in your letter on page 7, the Commission, let me read, the Commission is of the opinion that the conduct of the CEO, Terry Ramadhani, Act particularly Section 10 and 11. Mr. Abdi, today, as we speak, Terry Ramadhani is a deputy ambassador in India. And Mr. Mutuse, Honorable Mutuse, wants this House to get rid of the deputy president on the account of bullying somebody. Can you tell Kenyans, 50 million Kenyans today, as you stand there, do you want this House to impeach the president if you have already recommended some culprits to be given administrative, action,
And then you want us to impeach the president?
Senator Kamau Githuku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask a question to the Deputy Chief Executive Officer. In the course of your investigation, is there anywhere that you have identified that the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, who you want impeached, influenced any tender award? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
And the senator was elected by the people of Kajiado, Senator Sek.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question goes to, or clarification goes to Abdi Mohammed. Mohammed, we have realized that there's a report from the ACC and a report from the Committee of Health of the Senate in regards to the, this issue of mosquito nets. I want to confirm that the contract were not lost. I want you to demonstrate the role of this agent by the name Crystal Kenya Limited in relations to the Deputy President's office and more so.
Senator Miraj? Okay, if you don't have any question, then log out. You may now proceed, and thereafter we'll have an opportunity for the counsel for the Deputy President to respond to the clarification sought.
Thank
5
you.
minutes.
Thank
Abdi,
you,
you have 5 minutes.
Honorable Speaker. In fact, I'll take less than 5 minutes. Senator Omutata, I think he raised the issue of whether the agreement of the Kenya Kwanza document or Kenya Kwanza government document is unconstitutional. I think that one is only the courts that can actually find whether that document is unconstitutional or not. It's not within my ability or power, or rather to comment about the constitution. We did our bit in terms of recommending this lady to be disciplinary action be taken against her for her role in this particular procurement. But because I indicated we don't have the compellence powers to enforce their job, I wouldn't want to go there. We never recommended. I don't want to go there. Then, whether there was anywhere where the DP influenced any tender, no, we do not have that, and we never submitted that. All that we said is what I'm going to say in the next response, which was raised by the Honorable Senator for Kajiado County. Yeah. From the documents that we have and which we supplied, it is clear that this company, the directors are two sons of the Deputy President. Each one of them owns 200 shares. They're the only directors of that particular company. And that is the nexus between the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, and that particular company. And that is our response as of now. So, Honorable Speaker, thank you.
I served as an advocate for, woke up in March 2018 to find their leader shaking hands with his opponent at Harambee House, and they subsequently found a way to work. A few months ago, the President and the Honorable former Prime Minister have found a way to work. There's no such thing as an irretrievable political relationship. Secondly, Leadership constitutionally is not so much about how you feel. It is about your duty and your responsibility constitutionally. Your feelings must take a backseat to your duty to the people of Kenya. Secondly, I was asked about the counties. Now, when you look at these shareholder agreements, and again, if members will go with me to page 418, where you find the shareholder agreement between ANC, Ford Kenya, and UDA. Sorry? Oh, volume, sorry. I don't know how to increase the volume.
Council, sorry, Council members, I'm getting a bit lost when you say UNDA. UNDA, if spelling in Swahili is UNDA.
No, UDA, sorry, I come from Kenya.
United Democratic Alliance. If you use maybe the you first make clear.
I'm sorry.
That it is United Democratic Alliance.
Yes, I'm sorry. We use acronyms, I'm sorry. It's the United Democratic Alliance Party. The full name of Amani is Amani National Congress Party, and the full name for Ford Kenya is Ford Kenya Party. So their agreement at page 20, subparagraph O. That's the first terms of responsibility in the national government pursuant to this article shall be contained in a separate schedule to this agreement, which schedule shall be negotiated and executing is that there were further schedules. I don't know what those schedules say. Sumo was in the subsequent schedule, I don't know. Secondly, the drafters of this, as I've said, were careful to stay within the confines of the Constitution, because at paragraph 22, subparagraph G, this is what they said. Notwithstanding the content of this article, the founding member parties hereby commit to make any adjustments that may be necessary to accommodate the development priorities of privilege in participating in a case involving the MOU for NAC. And that one was struck down because the law had no underpinning, making room for Catherine Muma, which is the political parties section. There's actually not one, there's several. If you go to Schedule 3, subparagraph C, B, D, and E. Let me read them out for you. So B deals with the policies and objectives of the coalition. That's B. D deals with organizational structure and management of the coalition, including county structures and systems and county government bodies, which you'll also find in these agreements. And then C, the overall structure of the coalition. And then E.
Do this instead of the House rising at 1:05, we will rise at 1:15. So, Council Negwa, you'll take your 5 minutes, and then the rest shall be given to the Council for the National Assembly.
I am well guided, Mr.
Speaker, sir, the witness is asking if he can leave the
Absolutely, he's discharged.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Speaker, sir. I was asked to clarify by Senator Joyce Carrill why I am dealing with the report from the Senate and what am I driving at. The report to the Senate is intended to indicate that none of the participants in that tendering process, 10 companies, none of them benefited, and that as a result or as a consequence of the failure to proceed to the next levels,